What's going on? I bought this aeroWorks earlier this year. I can't even remember when. May, something like that. This is a kit build. I think it was pretty sure it was done by Sean Berkheimer and Damon Parker. It was Damon's iMac plane back in 2002. And these guys were really good. Wouldn't be surprised if Maurice Culverwell worked on this a little bit, maybe Mickey Crawley a little bit, and yeah, they were. I think they're all unlimited iMac pilots. At least I think Damon was. Mickey was for sure. Still is. I think Mickey's like leading his region of California. Pretty cool. Anyway, that's sidetracking. It's a really nice custom kit from aeroWorks. This was like the plane to have for about 10 years. 40%. Had a DA 150 on it, which I could have left. Those things are best motor DA ever made, and got plenty of power. But I bought it airframe only, so I'll be throwing a GP 178 on here. Love that support from Joe Lewis, and the motor is plenty good. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to do on it, and I've done it before, was increase the bevel size. Back then they didn't go, there wasn't none of this wild 3D stuff and extreme stuff. And then also the iMac guys even today don't worry about too much throw, but this had about 2.5 inches of travel right here, so about right in there. That's the max that the ailerons had. The ailerons are, look at how big they are though. They're like amazingly big and amazingly close to the root for that time period. I saw plenty of Daltons and Cardins and aeroWorks that the where's my finger? The ailerons were way over here, and stopped here, way before the root, and they were way smaller. So pretty cool. But we had, I think it was 2.5 inches I measured, and then I got 5.5. So both ways, on it now. So that took a ton of sanding, careful sanding, and then all I do is just cut a strip of covering, and it's a little wider at the root, a little narrow at the tip. You kind of measure it all, and then one piece, and then take my hole punch. Take my hole punch, and then you mark for all the Robarts hinges, and then you just lay it on top, and I go 1/8 of an inch over this covering here and 1/8 of an inch over this here. You lay it in. I like to use a credit card as I iron this side down, and credit card in the center, and then credit card as I'm pushing this one back up, and then seal it over. And then it looks totally factory. It looks like that's the way that they covered it, when they covered it at the time. The only bummer is I didn't plan ahead. I mean, I still have so much to do on the plane, but it'd be fun to, see the result of all that sanding. 6 hours of sanding on that one wing to put some covering, but it'd have to be pink or that blue. You could actually get away with the pink, but after all that work, I'm just going to go white. I always just go white no matter what the colors of the planes are, because I've done this like a dozen times. Like, I won't put a little yellow strip there. I just do white. And, it looks good. So I'll gap seal both sides, because it's the same on the bottom where it's all sanded like this on the bevels. And sometimes you're limited, like when you're sanding this stuff back, that, you run past the material, the wood, to where you're hitting foam or, open bays or whatever. So you can only go so far. But I was able to get a whole 5.5 inches on this, which is somewhere around 45 degrees. So pretty stoked. Already got the elevators done and the rudder done. So I just have one more wing to do, and then it'd be super fun to fly this thing. Hope it holds together. You got 22-year-old glue joints. But I'll baby it for a while and then push it a little bit harder, like usual. Haven't pushed this thing at all yet. Got some flights on it yesterday with that new rudder control horn setup, but I'm going to change that all out again. I know I kind of rushed that, and I'm going to put, you see the hard point held up good, and the Dubro 1032, they ain't going nowhere. But yeah, I'm going to run a longer bolt all the way through. I just have a nut on this side, and I'm going to do 2 silvers on each side. And I won't need these 961s, because they're 800 inch ounce. So I'll put four, you know, two on each side of the 9380 ones, which are basically 500 inch ounce. So I'll have 1,000 inch ounce on each side. So 2,000 inch ounce for the rudder. And the big thing is it'll be two surface areas that they'll be hitting, you know, so it'll be hitting on both sides of the rudder, the pressure. So, you know, hopefully everything can stay together. I mean, the way I did it, the hard point and the control horns ain't going nowhere, but you got all the ball joints and turnbuckle push rods and all that other stuff that you want to hold up. And I need the tail weight real bad on this thing. So I was going to put, like on my last one, I put a pound of lead in the stab tube, but hoping that kind of takes care of it. And then I wasn't sure on the CG on this one, so I got the batteries up here by the tank, but I'll put them all the way back towards the edge of the turtle deck and maybe make them heavier, because I got 2800s. I think I'll put 4000s back here. All that will help. And about the only other thing I can do as far as lightening the front is, well, I always do that thing where if I go no wheel pants and I go with the super light Excels, that's a pound. That's a full pound. So I'll be sorely tempted to give that a whirl. But, you know, last resort on these, after having two of them so far this year, is just to yank off this DA200, you know, because it's 10 pounds. And it's almost 12, or it is 12 with the headers and canisters. I'm not sure the exact number, but somewhere around 12. So I could find a cool plane for that. I wonder if the muscle bipe is good with a DA200, you know, if it's so floaty anyway that it doesn't mind that nose weight. I'm going to talk to Tim about that. Super Tim to the rescue. But yeah, this motor is running really good, like super good. And it always has run good since the first flight. You know, I had trouble, and that's an interesting story too. You know, I had trouble with the it restarting, and then I had a flame out, you know, after I did a little 3D with it on the fifth flight. Low and slow. So I got very lucky on that one. But it turns out, you know, I'd call DA every day, but it just never got any response. I emailed them every day, no response. And it could have been a real quick answer. And that's what I asked them. I go, do you got any real quick suggestions? But it was on Flying Giants the whole time. And additionally, it's in the manual, you know, that get airflow over your carbs. But that doesn't really excuse, you know, not answering your phone or emails or anything. But on Flying Giants, there's the thread going back a few years talking about this very same thing, you know, in the vapor lock with no air over the carbs. And they even talk about it on there. It's the whole deal. And this is what I talked about a week ago last Monday when I did the Maiden. You could go back to that night's video. The way that they recommend and show pictures in the manual from DA that we do the baffle is just like full scale, and it forces all the air through the fins of the heads and it cools the heads. And they're right. It works really good on full scale, works really good on these models. And this thing never got over 170. That was only on the first flight, and barely gets over 150 ever since the first flight. You know, once it got that one out of the way, it's practically cold all the time. But yeah, that doesn't allow for airflow over the carbs. Now, most of our planes have air intakes that are scale or not, but they have air blowing through the carbs just by default, which sometimes I'll put a filter screen over, keep the bugs out, but this laser didn't. So just chop that hole right there, that hole, that kind of sideways hole. And that blows right in over the carbs and all problems solved. That's a long story. To the point was, you know, that this motor is awesome. You know, it was from the first flight on. I was heating up the carbs, making it hard to restart, you know, on a potential vapor lock issue. But once I got air room, done deal. So anyway, this motor's awesome. So I could put it in another plane and, you know, be stoked. I have like 10 flights on that motor now. Maybe 12. Somewhere in that 10 to 12 range. So that thing's dial's been like a sewing machine since the first flight. But maybe there's an airframe that it's more perfect for. And maybe I haven't given it enough chance on here. But I was torque rolling this thing yesterday, and there's not a lot of pull out which doesn't make me too excited. It is running a 3212. I could try some different props, but this is the recommended preferred prop by all the elite guys that are running it. It's like the one everybody likes. So we'll see what's what, or this would just be a cruiser plane, but I really want to push it a little bit harder. So yeah, I'm thinking along the lines of GP178 on tune pipes, but you know, I really would love to put a ZDZ 195 on here with that big old prop that they run and all that power that they have and that lightweight. I mean, then I'd have to put the batteries and everything forward, probably take the servos out of the tail, you know. It'd be pretty sweet with that setup. I just don't want to keep investing in that company. You know, I already have one of the motors now. It's a month in transit. I sent it US Postal, and yeah, through customs, all that stuff. It's a month in transit. Still hasn't got there yet. Then they got to repair it, see what's wrong with it, which is at the very least the carb, and then they got to ship it back, which who knows, that might take another 6 weeks too. So you're talking a quarter of the year to get service, if that all goes well. That doesn't sound too good. So then you definitely got to get some spares, and then now you're investing in that whole thing. That's quite a commitment, unless you're absolutely positive that that's the only motor you want to run going forward. But it would be cool. I mean, it sounds like a cool motor to run on it, but yeah, I'll give this a little try longer. And then, you can go DLE 222, which has more power than this DA, and is the same weight as a standard 200. But this is an L, so this is a pound lighter. So yada yada. But that's too heavy. I already don't like the nose weight, and I already have tail weight issue, and too nose heavy issue, and all that. So yeah, that wouldn't work out. Now the motor that's good, on the first one I got the DA215 on that laser, just like this, that I bought used earlier this year. And so that thing just honks. That runs a big old prop. I got a 3313 on there, and it just honks out of the hovers and everything. And it's heavy in the nose too, and needs a pound of tail weight in the stab tube. But that motor honks. And people told me I wasn't going to like that motor, and I like that motor a lot. That's a damn fine motor. But it is heavy too, the same as these. So you got the nose weight issue. So we'll see what I figure out on that. But yeah, that's kind of an update. All right, out.